I want to talk to you again about policy. This is my fourth video on this. So here's something that I see, because what I want to see in America is that, you understand, the wealthiest people are only 1%. 1%. The Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, the Mark Zuckerbergs, they only represent 1% of the population. They're actually in the minority of the population. But the rest of us, you and I, we're in the majority. And we don't have anywhere near that kind of money. So here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us not having to suffer and sacrifice so much. I mean, it gets to a point where you have to ask yourself, how wealthy is wealthy? You've got, a fleet of private aircraft and 2 or 3 yachts, and you've got spaceships and all this other garbage. What about the average guy? We don't have that. We don't have 1/10 of that. That was my thing with the prosperity preachers, right? They're getting rich. They live in mansions. They've got luxury sports cars, and they're getting their wealth from people who don't have 1/10 of the wealth that they have. So here's my thing. Let's start with the Department of Defense. You have so many, and this is where I find fault with DOGE too, right? Because that tells me it's all BS too. You have so many outdated weapons development programs at the Department of Defense, it's not funny. Okay? $900 billion a year is being funneled to the Department of Defense, and they want to give them more. Okay? Here's what we do. We cut 20%. 20% of the Department of Defense's budget. 20%. That right there would make Social Security insolvent. That right there would fund the Department of Education and bring it up to standard. That right there, that 20%, will bring these so-called entitlement programs. It would fund them. Instead of continually throwing money into a pot that's not doing anything. And the next one, which was another post, listen. If we took 20% from the Department of Defense, don't you understand that we would still be way above post 9/11 funding for that department? We'd still be covered. We're not getting into a war every year anymore. Not right now. Now, here's another one that was brought into view from 9/11. The Department of Defense is one. The Department of Homeland Security is the other one. Homeland Security is basically about 15 different agencies that were compiled into one after 9/11. It gave us the Patriot Act, where they could just basically listen into all of our conversations. We needed to fund a little bit of that too now, because it's not 9/11 anymore. Okay? This is 24 years later. And we don't have those acts of terrorism coming in anymore. Not right now. Frankly, I think the terrorists take pity on us, especially in these years under Trump. I think the terrorists take pity on us. But if we cut 10% from the Department of Homeland Security, and with the additional 20% from the Department of Defense, and if we tax these great wealth folks, that 1%, tax them and these multinational businesses for 5 years at a rate of 55%, America will be great again. You're not going to get there with tariffs, because the American people pay tariffs. Let me be clear about that again. American people pay tariffs. You're not going to get there with tariffs. Cut this nonsense and wasteful spending that's here in the form of DOD, not taxing the rich, and Department of Homeland Security.